Teaching yourself guitar is something a lot of your favorite players probably did. So we're going to talk in this video about teaching yourself guitar, what are the pros and cons, and what are some pitfalls and how can you avoid them. So here we go. Let's talk about teaching yourself guitar. So what are some of the pros of teaching yourself guitar? Well, the biggest pro is probably that you're saving money. You're also saving time on the commute to your lessons. So this time and money that you would have invested into lessons, now you can just focus all of it back into playing guitar. So that's going to be one of the biggest pros for you. Another pro on teaching yourself guitar is going to be nobody's pressuring you. You know, you can do things at your own pace. Nobody's there watching you. Some people are uncomfortable being watched or playing with another person there. So the teacher thing just doesn't work for them. So yes, you can work at your own pace and you can learn at your own pace in the privacy, in whatever privacy you need, so that you're not being, watched. If there's any extra pressure that makes you uncomfortable, it's not going to be there. Lastly, a teacher might teach in a linear way, and it just might not be the way that works best for you. Especially because so many teachers do have kind of an approach where you have to know this and then this and then this. You won't have to sit through a lot of prerequisite information, and you can jump right to maybe the video online that teaches you how to do this riff you want to know. So absolutely, if you set your own curriculum like that, you're not going to be locked into anybody's sort of linear approach, anybody's one idea of how you should play. So that's really, lastly, and it's a big one, that's a pro to teaching yourself. Some cons to teaching yourself include bad habits. What if you're playing or learning from videos or learning from friends and no one's calling you out on, the hand position that you're getting yourself used to? The more you play, that's going to turn into a habit that in the end prevents you from playing with either the speed or dexterity that you want to. You might be building in bad habits. So that's something to keep in mind. That might be a con to teaching yourself. Another con to teaching yourself is sometimes, life gets in the way. We schedule everything and then we fit in our hobbies kind of where they fit in between our other scheduled items. This was why a lot of people take lessons actually, so that they have, not somebody necessarily there with the whip, but just so that they have somebody there. So that every week they promise to see this person and then they go and then they do it, and then it fits in their schedule that way. Instead of fitting between the items in their schedule, because our vigilance wanes, so we don't always stay on top of it. That's a human nature thing, but if you're the kind of person that can self-motivate, then, again, that's a pro. But it's a con for most people in that they can't, in the end, all of us do best on a schedule, and when we kind of owe it, not owe it, but when we have promised somebody else that we'd see them at a certain time, and we know that that's coming up, we tend to practice because it motivates us, it gets us going. It's like working out with a trainer. Another con to teaching yourself is that it might be an isolating experience. If you're just playing in your house and working on stuff and working with your computer or working with books that you found that you're reading, or even figuring out stuff from recordings. And I'll tell you, that's how I learned bass, which is what I ultimately went to music school for, electric bass, by learning to play other people's albums. And it was certainly, it worked for me, but it was a little painstaking, like every single note, figuring out every single note, and then extrapolating from there what the theory behind it kind of was and all the big concepts. But in a way, if that's how it had to be for me, it ended up working for me. So it's a con, though, insofar as it can be isolating. I mean, you're just alone working with recordings or with the internet or some books. So that is one of the cons. Okay, lastly, as a con, as far as teaching yourself, when I taught myself, I missed out on someone else setting the curriculum for me. Like I said, I kind of set my own, and I worked off of albums that I liked. But in the end, I didn't get a diversified musical experience. So I only, as a young bass player who was really into rock and funk, when it came time for me to play jazz when I went to college or other kinds of music, which you may not be interested in right now, but I was starting over, and it's because I had never learned the basic concepts that went into other kinds of music. I was like, well, I just want to play this song and this song and this song, and then I had a bunch of songs I could play, but I hadn't really gotten into the why of what I was doing. And when theory informed my playing, when the theory that I learned from playing other kinds of music and stuff like that started to inform my playing, everything got a lot more mature with my playing, and that's actually part of how I ended up learning guitar pretty quickly when I turned 20, is because now I was coming from a place where, someone was telling me the big concepts and then teaching me songs as examples, instead of learning a bunch of sort of examples and then having to figure out what they were examples of and extrapolate, what was going on behind the music so that I could be an intelligent songwriter, and put this music to use in creating something, not just emulating. So diversifying your musical experience, both with playing with other people, but also playing other people. Like, not just your favorite bands, but maybe something else that teaches you a new skill that, okay, I can apply that to my playing again now. And even though it felt irrelevant while I did it, now suddenly everything's relevant. And when I synthesize it into my own music, I'm going to be coming from a more educated place. So it was a con for me, really, that I didn't get to diversify my musical experience. It did force me to have a kind of a break and then have to start over and learn another kind of music before everything really integrated and made sense. And I was able to theoretically put together all my information I'd learned in a coherent way. So if you can learn from the beginning in a coherent way, where you're learning concepts and putting it into practice, it tends to be a better way to go. When we teach ourselves, we tend to just practice things, but we don't know what we're practicing. We don't know the big concept sort of at play. So we'll learn a bunch of songs, we'll learn a bunch of riffs, but we won't necessarily learn kind of what's going on behind it. So the last con would be just that diversification of experience. So that's some of the pros and cons of teaching yourself guitar. As you know, I'm a guitar instructor, so I am a little bit biased on this one, but then again, my experience was teaching myself both bass and guitar in the beginning. So I will say that I understand both very well, and I'm coming from a place of having taught myself, and I'll admit my bias, but I will say, yes, I'm coming from a place of having taught myself, but if only I'd known, if only I'd started sooner with a curriculum that somebody else who knew better the best order to put things in, and not just like, now I know this riff, now I know this riff, now I know this song. So, take it for what it's worth, and I hope that it helps you. Finding the right teacher is going to be the really important thing. I mean, if you realize, okay, I thought I'd teach myself, and now I'm realizing maybe I'll have some lessons. I'll just check it out and see what someone else can show me in terms of the big picture or a curriculum. Check out the other videos that I have on the site here on how to pick a good teacher, because you can waste your time, absolutely, and I know it's something you're worried about doing. So definitely pick the right teacher. There's some information here to help you do that. So best of luck, and I hope no matter what path you choose, I get to see you on stage soon.